Hi, welcome to Quirky Books with Katie. Today we are going to be talking about the book Unspoken by Sarah Rees Brennan. Let me start out by saying that this book was so amazing, so phenomenal, so gorgeous, and any other adjective you want to put out there to describe it, that was this book. So the premise of this book is there's a 17-year-old girl named Cami Glass, and ever since she was younger, she's had this guy that she has been able to talk to in her head. And when she was a kid, everyone thought this was cute. You know, who doesn't have that imaginary friend that they tell everything to? But as she gets older, the imaginary friend doesn't really go away, and people think she's crazy. So yeah, she doesn't have that many friends. And on the first day of school, the Lindburns come back to town. And they haven't been in England for 15 years. And when they used to be there, everyone was so afraid of them. And Cami is on the newspaper and decides to do an article about this. While in school on her first day, she runs into Ash Lindburn, and she kind of asks him a couple questions, and you start to see, oh, they're going to end up somehow together or the other. Cami, after school, goes to the library to do more research and gets stuck in an elevator with a guy named Jared. Jared is also the name of the guy in her head. No coincidence there, am I right? And through conversation, they find out that this is the guy that she has been talking to in her head since she was younger. The first 100 pages of this book are basically them just getting used to this. And it's really funny because it is full of many sarcastic comments, awkward situations, and very adorable scenes. So let's talk about Jared. He was probably one of the best parts of this book, and one of the best guy YA characters out there right now. He is funny, sarcastic, attractive. And he kind of reminds me of Jace from the Mortal Instruments, but not really. Because he does have that bad boy with a tortured soul kind of thing going on. So, halfway through the book, we find out why this is a YA fantasy novel. It turns out that Jared and his family are sorcerers, and they can practice magic. And they also find out why Cami and Jared are linked. They are linked because when they were born, Jared's mother and Cami's mother linked them together with the spell, so that is basically why they can hear each other's thoughts. And we also find out that Cami is the source for Jared, so basically when she's around him, he has more power and stuff like that. And they try to convince her to break the bond. And Jared's Uncle Rob comes and tries to convince her. And he does say, though, oh, the feelings that you guys have towards each other are just because of the bond. Because throughout the book, you kind of start to realize they start to fall in love with each other and stuff like that. And that is a very big foreshadowing towards the end. There was only one part of this book that I was not completely head over heels in love with. And that is the part when Cami goes out with Ash, who is Jared's cousin. Because you know she's going to end up with Jared at the end. And by this point, you're kind of just like, no, Ash, go away. We need to see more of Jared. Let me also take note of how many feelings this book evoked from me. At some parts, I was laughing so hard I was almost crying. At other parts, I was just going, oh my gosh, that's so cute. And then at the ending, I practically wanted to chuck the book against the wall. So now we are going to talk about the ending. And I'm probably going to spoil what happens, so if you're going to read this, you might not want to listen. So, at the end, you basically find out that half of Jared's family is crazy, because they all, through the last couple weeks, they've been performing these sacrifices, which draw them more power, and then they start to sacrifice humans, and it gets pretty ugly. So then, they're about to kill Cami, which would also kill Jared, so Cami decides to cut the bond between her and Jared. And Jared's in her head saying, no, I'm going to be there in a few minutes. And then me as the reader am screaming at her, no, you can't do this. You can't do this to poor Jared. No. And then basically the last 4 pages, like I said, made me want to cry. Because Cami, before she cuts the bond, she's just like, Jared, I love you. And then she ends up back in their mansion, and Jared comes in and he's just like, that was the best thing you ever did. I really don't care that much about you anymore. And Cami's just like, Cami's so mad, and I felt so bad for her, because just like, you love him, and he doesn't feel the same. And when I finished this book, it was kind of one of those moments where you just sit there, and I sat on my bed for like 5 minutes thinking, oh my God, what did I just read? This is sheer perfection. So basically, this book was amazing. I give it a 6 out of 5. And if you like YA fantasy novels of any kind, you must go read this. You will not be disappointed if you did. The next book, however, does not come out until August. So until then, I have to kind of decide what book to read next. I feel bad for whatever I read after this because it will probably seem really bad. But thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel.